Okay, so a few weeks ago I finally got around to debunking the Aaron Maute/Grey Zone narrative of omission in their attempt to deny the fact that the Assad regime gassed civilians in Douma. A narrative that Jimmy Dore has been all too happy to parrot over and over. Well, it looks like our boy Jimmy dusted off some of those talking points in order to similarly confuse his audience regarding the killing of Ukrainian civilians in Bucha by Russian soldiers. But before we proceed, remember to click like and subscribe if you like this video. And if you don't like it, click like and subscribe anyhow. And before we get started, let us pray.
Look here, Mars. Look here, Mars. I am Titus Pullo. These bloody men my gift to you.
Okay, let's hear what our boy has to say about Bucha.
And so what they're talking about, Aaron, is they're talking about this. This is from the Defense of Ukraine. It has the blue check. And it says, news, Srebrenica, the Ukrainian city of Bucha, was in the hands of the animals, Russian animals, for several weeks. Local civilians were being executed arbitrarily, some with hands tied behind their backs, their bodies scattered in the streets of the city. So this is being reported as fact, that Russia was shooting unarmed citizens with their hands tied behind their back and then left them in the streets. This is what they're reporting as fact. Now, this makes about as much sense as the Assad gassing his own people as he's winning the war.
In 2018, Douma was the last opposition holdout in eastern Ghouta. It had in fact held out for years and the Assad regime was becoming impatient. This is common knowledge to anyone who's done the most basic research on Douma. Gassing civilians would expedite the takeover, which is what in fact happened. Likewise, the Russian invasion hasn't gone as planned, and they've since pulled back to regroup. As explained by former General Petraeus.
Out for everyone, again, satellites pick this up. They're moving south. So to come back to Donbass, what they're doing is they're over here, moving along like this, and they're coming south, and again, they're going to be pushed in from here. And of course, you have a new commander. You have General Dvornikov. He's known as the Butcher of Syria for this brutal campaign that he prosecuted in Syria when he was the commander there in 2016.
And what does it tell you that that Putin put General Alexander Dvornikov in charge of the invasion now? Not just obviously that the previous military efforts failed, but does this mean that it's going to get even worse, even more brutal, even more targeting of civilians?
I fear that it may. Again, the Russians were known in Syria basically for, quote, depopulating areas. That's what they did to Aleppo. That's what they did to other areas. And I think we can expect that. We saw, the very first operation taken under him includes that terrible strike on the rail station. So you're going to see the focus again. The focus is the southeast. They have said, phase one is over, achieved all our objectives, which actually they withdrew from. Again, the main effort originally, which was Kyiv, they didn't topple the government, replace President Zelensky with a pro-Russian figure. So now they're putting it all into the southeast. And
it doesn't make any sense that Assad would do that, and that's why Aaron Maté debunked those gas attack conspiracy theories that was spread by the CIA and the mainstream news media.
Except that anyone who's done a fair amount of honest research on what happened in Douma in 2018, and who is also familiar with Maté's work knows that he hasn't debunked anything. Little more than an extension of the Assad regime, Maute has ignored the fact that the OPCW was delayed from entering Douma by a week, thereby delaying the investigation and giving them time to tamper with the evidence, and even then, the OPCW was never given access to every area they requested. The Russians had plenty of time to engage in evidence tampering and eyewitness intimidation. Maute has ignored or downplayed countless other corroborating evidence, like this testimony here.
Vi frågar oss fram och efter en stund står vi som första utländska journalister utanför huset där den misstänkta gasattacken skedde. Ut ur huset kommer en av dem som överlevde den fasansfulla kvällen i Douma den 7 april.
قاعدين بالأبو بالأقبية من شان الضرب الساعة 7 ضرب الصاروخ هذا طلع قاعدين تحت كنا من شمينا ريحة طلعنا دغري لفوق نسوان والأولاد فاتوا على البناء الصاروخ نازل على ظهر البناء ما عرفانين الريحة كلها بالبناء اللي فات موت دغري اختنق وطلع أنا طلعت لهون صرت لهون غميت شوي.
But on my way out of Douma, it turned out that the Syrian government weren't very keen to take me to something completely different from the hospital, which was the attack site. So in the end, I simply jumped on the back of someone's motorbike and they took me to the attack site, closely followed by a Syrian army major and my minder. And this man said, this is where it happened, lots of people died, and then he zoomed off. And it turned out that I was able to geolocate that site with the help of Bellingcat and Forensic Architecture and various other people, and that was the street where it happened.
What Mate did do was focus on a flawed and unsolicited report that used incorrect canister measurements and unsupported assumptions, comments made in a meeting, by people who clearly did not understand that the city was being bombed, as they didn't seem to understand why the people in the building didn't go outside, and who also made comments regarding pulmonary edema which is contradicted by the known facts. Mate has mostly focused on, and exaggerated these small attributes of the OPCW analysis, and has ignored or downplayed everything else.
Here it says Russia claims Bucha civilian massacre was faked as a provocation as outrage builds over Ukraine war atrocities. So this is from Moon of Alabama. They tweeted out, Russian troops on March 30th, the Russian troops leave Bucha. On March 31st, the mayor of Bucha announces the town was liberated and makes no mention of atrocities. Then on April 1st and 2nd, Azov Nazis enter Bucha. And then on April 3rd, they publish all the Russian atrocities. So they're seeming to say that it was the Nazis that did that. Now, if you know anything about how...
And here it is, the usual extent of Jimmy's research, scouring Twitter for some rando's tweet that happens to align with his own narrative. He doesn't even bother to vet the tweet for accuracy. Notice how this rando specifically focuses on the video that was published by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense as if to imply that this was the first time footage of the victims was shown. But we see this footage as early as April 1st, including on Twitter. It's funny how Jimmy's in-depth Twitter research only led him to some convenient nonsense posted by a rando, as opposed to this footage.
Если вы говорите, что русские солдаты это люди. Просто для вообще разумения того, что происходило тут. Разворачивайся, нахуй ты туда едешь. Сейчас разворачивайся. Но. Если...
Our Ali Velshi actually tweeted this out. This remarkable New York Times investigation using satellite imagery disproves the Russian claim amplified by U.S. conspiracy theorists, that somehow Ukrainians themselves killed or planted the dead bodies discovered in Bucha. So this is the New York Times did their own investigation, and the New York Times is confirming this to be true. The New York Times. Now, let's remember, Aaron, the last time the New York Times confirmed a war crime that the United States wanted them to confirm. I don't know if you remember what it was, but it was the chemical attack in Syria. And so what did the New York Times do? They created a pretend digital version of what happened. What they did was they imagined what it looked like, and then they got some graphics made. It said how we created a virtual crime scene to investigate Syria's chemical attack. And they got it 100% wrong. They got it 100% wrong. And here it is. How we created a virtual crime scene to investigate Syria. There it is. It was all bullshit.
As usual, Dore provides a cartoonish straw man version of a report he finds inconvenient, as if the New York Times pulled the satellite images from thin air. These satellite images were provided by Maxar Technologies, as the images come from their satellites. The pictures have also been confirmed by the BBC. Hell, not even Aaron Mate is ready to stick his neck out on this one.
So, yes, in terms of the allegations about what happened in Bucha, the Times has just come out. I haven't read the story yet, but apparently what they did is they looked at satellite footage that matches bodies in the streets of Bucha to dates well before the Russians left, which means that these people were killed while Russia was there. Which means that, look, if these images are accurate, then it's quite possible that the allegation is correct, that Russia committed war crimes. There's no, war crimes happen in war. 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 War crimes happen in war.
So at this point, you probably won't be surprised to learn that Jimmy is lying when he claims that models used to recreate the unfortunate events in Douma were based on imagination. Here is what Jimmy is omitting because that's what he does. He paints a false narrative of omission.
On the 7th of April 2018, the city of Douma, Syria, was allegedly targeted by 2 chemical attacks. The New York Times asked Forensic Architecture to undertake spatial analysis for their report on the sites, which was published on the 24th of June 2018. Here we will explain some of the processes we employed in our analysis. But first, some context. Russian journalists, who were the first to be given access by the Syrian military, visited both sites and claimed that the attacks were staged. They claimed that the distinctive yellow chlorine canisters had been carried onto the site by rebels, rather than being dropped from airspace, which is exclusively controlled by the Syrian government. However, as we will show, the videos produced by the Russian media in fact contain powerful evidence to the contrary. Working closely with the New York Times' video investigation team, we reconstructed the 2 sites using all available images and videos, determined the precise dimensions of the canisters, and searched for physical traces inscribed on their surfaces. Site 1 is a rooftop balcony located next to Al-Shuhada Square. This model is built in Blender, using dimensions established from satellite images and corroborated by scalable architectural details observed in ground-level images. We took still images from this news report and located them within the model, taking into account focal length, scale, and rotation. We identified several features consistent with the canister having been dropped from an aerial platform. These features make it extremely unlikely that the attack was staged. The canister's first likely point of impact is here, above the balcony. These fractures are consistent with impact from above. The point of impact at the balcony floor indicates that the angle of approach was sharp, almost vertical. This suggests that the aerial platform from which the canister was dropped was slow-moving or static, perhaps from a helicopter. In this image, we can see that the canister has broken through the floor. Chlorine gas, heavier than the surrounding air, would have been discharged into the room below. This video, showing the gas flowing at ground level along a street in Aleppo, was used in the New York Times video report to demonstrate its density. Among the debris on the balcony floor are pieces of shattered concrete, a wire mesh fence, and this piece of cloth. The fence was likely positioned above the balcony, either to provide shade or for drying clothes. The length of the fence indicates it could have been located here or here. In this news report from RT, we can see another metal object. It is also visible in other videos of the site. We believe the object could be a metal harness with fins, used to guide the canister as it drops. Using the object deformation features in Blender, we can effectively untangle this object while retaining its dimensions. The size and structure of the harness is consistent with others found at chemical attack sites across Syria, including the second site we examined in Douma. The scale of the wreckage matches the scale of the canister. Transitioning between these states allows us to identify features of the harness, such as longitudinal straps, tail fins, and a wider strip of metal around the nose. In this image, we can see a pair of wheels among the debris, and in another, a second set of wheels attached to the harness. Comparing these images with others collected by Bellingcat, we can confirm that these wheels are likely used to roll munitions out of a helicopter. Comparing the dimensions of the wheels across 2 different sites confirms the match. The features identified in this harness are important because they show that an otherwise benign chlorine canister has been converted into a chemical bomb to be dropped from above. Next, we investigate the traces left on the canister itself. By projecting multiple images from different camera angles onto the surface of the canister, we create a navigable 3D object that can be read as a medium of inscription. We are then able to unwrap the canister to create the image seen on the right, which is a complete mapping of the canister's surface. This 3D model is published alongside the video on our website project page, so that open source investigators can use it to identify the hallmarks of chlorine gas attacks, should they occur again. The nose of the canister is discoloured. This is caused by a corrosive acid created when chlorine gas reacts with the water, which condenses on the outside of the canister during rapid decompression. We can see similar discoloration on other canisters known to have been used in chlorine attacks. The nose of the canister is visibly deformed, consistent with impact damage. From a second angle, we can see further separate deformation of the canister, suggesting multiple points of impact. Here we see grid-shaped marks on the canister's surface, consistent with the remains of the wire mesh fence. Using an extract of the grid, we can confirm this by comparing dimensions. Even the layering of the wire mesh lattice is inscribed on the canister, with bolder impact marks on one axis and fainter markings on the other. The presence of these marks, likely the result of forceful impact, further supports the conclusion that the canister was dropped from the air. The cooling effect of rapid decompression causes condensation and even frost to form on the canister's surface. Similar examples of frosting on canisters can be seen in these images from the Bellingcat website. As it melts, this frost forms distinctive runoff patterns. The fact that the runoff patterns trace along the upper side of the canister suggests that the canister has been rotated after releasing its contents. Looking at available images, we can confirm that the position of the canister has indeed been moved and rotated between the image taken on the 9th of April and the image taken on the 8th of April. While the motive behind this interference in the crime scene is unknown, the rotation of the canister and its documentation exposes the runoff pattern, an important piece of physical evidence that the canister decompressed at this location. The earliest recording of the canister likely captures its original position. In this video, from the night of the attack, we can see a white object shining through the ceiling. The white colour is caused by a layer of frost on the nose of the canister. This process is shown in images of previous chlorine strikes from Al Jazeera. Surrounding detail within our model allows us to confirm that this is the point of impact on the balcony floor. We align the image to the model by adjusting camera positions and focal lengths. Accurately matching this image to our model establishes the original position of the canister before it has been interfered with. At the second attack site, the canister appears to have entered a bedroom through a large hole in the ceiling. Again, we model this space from available images. We reconstruct and measure the hole, which appears to be the entry point of the canister. The dimensions of this hole are approximately 160 by 70 centimeters. The area beneath the hole is littered with debris, but the canister is located on the bed. The hole in the ceiling and the location of the canister do not easily align. The angle seems too extreme for the canister to have landed on the bed, which also seems undamaged. It is very possible, therefore, that this canister has also been moved from its original position. Using similar modelling techniques to those we employed at Site 1, we highlight a number of features within the footage to support allegations that this was a chlorine attack. We create models of the canisters from still frames derived from the videos available to us. Frosting on the canister's surface, as well as on the harness, suggests that the canister has undergone rapid decompression, followed by gradual defrosting. Multiple still images aligned and projected onto the model show how the frosting recedes slowly over the course of many hours as it drains its gas. Unlike the canister in Site 1, this canister still has a nozzle attachment. This causes chlorine gas to be released more slowly and explains the persistence of the frosting on the canister. In this video, we can hear a hissing noise in the background, which suggests that the canister is decompressing whilst the cameraman is filming.
That's good.
By looking at a spectrogram of the audio, we can also see a distinct frequency band standing out from the background noise. This supports the conclusion that the canister is still discharging at the time of filming. The surfaces of the rooms and those of the canister have been reconstructed as mediums of inscription. Our analysis of these traces provides evidence for how the canisters were delivered, the mechanisms used to deliver them, and how they decompressed.